Howdy-ho, Andrew here. Welcome to the Onion Buns and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Oilers. So we have the first two regular season games in the books. And tomorrow, I'm filming this on Monday, October 13th. So tomorrow is game 3 in New York, and that will be covered in next week's video. Just so you know, I record on Mondays. I schedule for Wednesday release, but anything that happens after Monday gets pushed to the next week. So I'll be going over those two games and a few other things going on. But before we get to that, I want to address something here. I'm seeing it already starting, and this has been an ongoing frustration for me with Oiler fans for a number of years. Going back to probably, I think the first time it really got under my skin was Devan Dubnyk. So we're going back quite a ways, and it's repeated itself year after year after year. So to all of you Oiler fans that are what I call toxic fans, stop. Seriously, just stop already. Every single year, there is a group of you, and I don't think it's a majority of Oiler fans. I think you're just a vocal minority on the internet and social media. But there is a group of you that pick 1, 2, 3 players, and you do your damnedest from day one to run them out of town. And it is usually a goalie, a coach, or a defenseman. And it's got to stop. Like, seriously, you guys, those of you bitching about Skinner already, just stop. Go be Leaf fans. You'll fit right in over there. Skinner is not to blame for game 1. And I'm sick of reading about it. I'm sick of hearing about it. So why don't we get into the game 1 recap? And I'll talk about what I'm saying. Sorry, I got to use notes. I'm old and the short-term memory is not the greatest anymore. So I need to use notes on to remind myself on this stuff. So, all right. So we had October 8th, Oilers versus Calgary. So right off the bat, the Oilers were amazing in the first period. They dominated the game from start to finish in the first period. Unfortunately, they didn't show up in the second and third period. So I did a recap, and I'll link to the recap already, and you can look at my long form recap on that game. So I'm just going to go over a couple of things. And the main thing I want to talk about is Stuart Skinner in game 1. Stuart Skinner is not to blame for us losing to Calgary. 3 of the goals that got scored on him should have never happened. The first goal, the puck came out, it bounced off a Noah Phillips skate, and it went in. Any goalie in the league's going to let that in because they're not expecting their own player to redeflect it into the net. Now, I don't blame Phillip because we've seen this over the years happen to us. I think, honestly, it's a coaching issue and a player issue is we need to teach these guys that when they're standing in front of our own net, they just need to angle their skate just the slightest bit. So when the puck's coming like that, it hits and it goes out. Rather than Phillip was standing like this, the puck came boom and in. That's all it is. You know, it's the coaches need to hammer this into the players' heads, and the players need to be aware of this. So I don't blame that on Skinner, and I don't even blame it on Phillip. It was a bad bounce, but we've been victim to these bad bounces a lot over the years. So I think the coaches really need to drill down on the players about their foot positioning when they're standing in front of the net. Like when the puck is over in the right corner, they need to angle it so it comes and it bounces out. When the puck's in the left corner, just a little shift of their skates, so same thing. So it's not bouncing into the net, and there's no chance for it to bounce into the net. I seriously think that's something the Oilers need to look at. Okay, the second goal, that was 1,000% on Bouchard. That was not Skinner's fault. Even though Skinner is taking the blame for it, that wasn't his fault. The puck came in, he stopped it, Bouchard was coming in, there was a flame behind Bouchard, but the flame was not pressuring Bouchard as Bob Stauffer tried to make excuses, because as soon as this goal happened, Bob Stauffer was all over making excuses for Skinner. And this was not Skinner, this was Bouchard. Skinner stopped the puck, He left the puck for Bouchard. Bouchard was to grab the puck and take it. Instead, Bouchard just skated by, lackadaisical, no urgency. And once that happened, Skinner was like, oh shit. And he went to get the puck, but the Flame came in and just pushed it, and it went through Skinner and into the net. I think it's understandable now that Evan Bouchard is never going to be even a below average defensive player. He has no interest in it. None. Zilch. So whether it's Skinner, Pickard, or even Ingram from the farm, when it's Bouchard around them, they need to treat the puck and the play like he's not there. What Skinner should have done, and I don't blame Skinner for this because he thought his defenseman, he left the puck for his defenseman, and if it was any of the other 5 defensemen, they would have grabbed the puck and gone, but not Bouchard. So what Skinner and Pickard and Ingram on the farm, if he ever comes up to play, what they need to do is when it's Bouchard there, they need to treat the play like Bouchard's not there. So what Skinner needed to do was stop the puck and put it off into the corner. Just ignore Bouchard. Bouchard can go in the corner and collect the puck if he can. But don't rely on Bouchard to make that defensive play because he's not going to. He hasn't in 5 years now? He's not going to. It's not in his DNA, and he has no interest in it. And I'm so sick and tired of people making excuses for him and for blaming Skinner when Bouchard does these stupid plays. Like this was peewee level defensive play. The goalie stops it, you grab it, and you get the rebound out of there. It's like, hell, I was taught that in Mighty Mites. I was a defenseman in Mighty Mites. I know they don't have Mighty Mites anyway. That's the lowest level age group. And I was taught that you clear the puck after the goalie stops it if he's not covered it. That's your job. But for some godforsaken reason, Bouchard's not interested in that. So again, the goalies need to stop relying on Evan Bouchard defensively. Just play the puck like he's not there, like it's him and the opposing player. So you put it off into the corner or you cover it. Just remove Bouchard from the equation completely. So that was the second goal. The third goal should never have counted, or it was the third or the fourth goal, I forget, but it was a high stick, and it was an obvious high stick. They showed like 9 replays of this, and 4 of them were clear-cut high stick, and yet it counted, which is ironic because in the next game, Nurse redirected a puck. Now, I don't have a problem with this goal being not counted because it was a high stick as well, but it was a hell of a lot closer and contentious than the Flames goal with the high stick. Like he was about this far over the crossbar when he put it in, and yet they counted it. So we already got inconsistency from the officiating, and there's no excuse for that because they can watch the replays now. They get the same replays we get on the TV. So if we can see it on the TV, they can see it when they're replaying it. So we already game 1, and we're already into inconsistency from the officiating. I don't blame that on Skinner either. Like that was a high stick, So yeah, so that was 3 goals. We win. Take those 3 goals away, we win. But the truth is, we didn't deserve to win. We really didn't. We outplayed them in the first period. And then they figured it out. They went, and they didn't outplay us in the second and third skill-wise. Like we were by far the more skilled team. They did what Florida did to us. They got physical. And it was my number one concern heading into the season is we got smaller and we got softer. And sure enough, that's what cost us game 1. Is they bullied us. It's like, okay, you got more skill, but if I knock you on your ass, then your skill doesn't matter. And that's how they played it, and they won. And it went to overtime. They outplayed us in overtime. I'm not even sure we touched the puck all that much, honestly. And then in the shootout, it went 8 rounds. So when you go 8 rounds in a shootout, I don't blame the goalie because eventually one team's going to score when you're that deep into the shootout. And unfortunately, it was the Weasel Kadri that scored, which always sucks, but you knew it was coming. Somebody was going to get a goal. because they were too deep into the shootout. So we got a point. So rah. But yeah, I don't blame that game on Skinner. I know all the no minds out there, they blame Skinner, and it's all over the net and it's on the radio and it's blah, 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 blah. Skinner. It wasn't Stu Skinner's fault. 3 of those goals should have never been allowed. See, even the high stick goal is Nurse was tied up with this monster Calgary had. He's like 6'5", 6'7", and Nurse and him were tied up. So they took each other out of the play. But that left 3 Oilers in our slot against 2 Flame players, and then there was 2 Flame players on the points. So you had 2 Flame players in the slot, and the puck goes up in the air, and everybody's just swinging their sticks. All Edmonton had to do was play the body, move those 2 players out of the slot, and there would have been no rebound. Even if it was a high stick, it wouldn't have been there, so it wouldn't have been on net, and it wouldn't have gone in. But we're too soft. We have no physicality on this team, and that is going to bite us in the ass as this season goes on. Like, we're in game 1 and 2, and there's normally not a lot of physicality in the first 10, 15 games of the season. Everyone's flying. As it wears down, people get more physical. We don't have that on our team. That's not how we're made. We've gone offense. And you've heard me on that topic before, so I'm not going to bother repeating it even more. But yeah, it's like we have no defensive identity, and we don't have the physicality we had last year with Kane and them. So yeah, I really don't know how this season's going to play out. I don't know. We're too soft of a team, and this was my big concern, and I'm seeing it play already. So that was game 1. Game 2 against Vancouver, well, that was a flip. Vancouver didn't show up. They got 4 shots in the first period, 5 shots in the second period, 6 shots in the third period. 15 shots on net. It was an easy game for Cal Pickard. And contrary to the no minds out there that are screaming about Stuart Skinner, and they're all claiming, oh, he's been benched. Or no, this Knobloch came out right at the start of the season, said Skinner will get game 1, Pickard will get game 2. It was a planned start. So there was no benching, there was no blaming by the Oilers. It's just the no minds out there that, again, they come out every year. They pick 1, 2, 3 players, and they try to drive them out of town. And it seems like Stuart Skinner is their target this year. And I'm so tired of it. Like, if his play sucks, okay, that's one thing. But at least give him the chance to make or break his season before you start going after him. If there's one player people should be screaming at already, it's Bouchard. But of course, the golden boy, nobody can say anything about. But I just had an exchange on Oilers Nation where a guy I used to know, well, they're talking about Bouchard on the Olympic team. I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to argue with him because he's misaligning the facts. Bouchard is not a lock on the Olympic team, and the experts are not saying he's a lock on the Olympic team. He might make it. I'm not saying he won't. He might make it. So I replied to him. I said, yeah, that makes sense because the Olympics is non-physical. It's checking, and defense really plays no part in it. This is why you get 8, 9, 12 goal games. Sure enough, he just replied, oh, there's tons of checking. It's a very physical game. No, it's not. Olympic hockey is non-contact hockey for the most part. If you hit a person too hard cleanly, you will get a penalty in Olympic and international hockey. We've seen it. If you hit a person into the boards and the boards make too much noise, you will get a penalty. Olympic hockey is not physical, so it makes sense that Bouchard would be getting a good look because Bouchard is all about the offense. That's his game. He's a one-dimensional offensive player. But the NHL is not the Olympic hockey. And even in this reduced physicality era, and it is grossly reduced, there is still far more physicality and defensive play in the NHL than there is in Olympic hockey or international hockey, world championships or Spangler Cup or any of that. The 2 leagues that are the most physical in hockey are professional leagues, not talking minors, are the NHL and the KHL. Those are the 2 leagues that body check. And then you get into the AHL and the ECHL, and they up the body checking even more down there. But for the top tier leagues, the NHL and the KHL. Swedish Hockey League, Finnish Hockey League, German, they don't body check. They really don't. They're wider, more room. They're all about the speed and the offense. But the NHL still has body checking, still has defensive play. And if you can't play that, well, maybe you shouldn't be paid $10 million a year. So anyway, so game 2, it was, we won. Woo-woo! And Noah Philp got his first NHL goal, and that was exciting. And I was really, really impressed with Nurse and Regula. Like, they together as a pairing, they were our best defensive pairing in that game, offensively or defensively. Like, those two were clicking really, really well. The line that stood out to me, of the three forwards that stood out to me the most, was Philip Kapanen and Podkolzin. They had a hell of a game, and Philip got his first NHL goal, and they gave Vancouver all they could handle, and they were great offensively, they were great defensively. There was one body check by Kane, playing for Vancouver now, unfortunately. Regula came behind the net, and he had his head down, and Kane just leveled him with a perfectly clean body check, and it rung Regula's belt. Like, he had his head down, he wasn't expecting it, and Kane just put the shoulder into him, and boom! And it was Philip and Kulak that instantly jumped Kane to protect their player. And I have no problem with that. It was a clean hit, but I have no problem because they were showing that they have their players back, and that's awesome. You know, I was so impressed with Philip, and even more so because Stauffer in the pre-show was trying to throw Philip under the bus, suggesting he's going to be the player that gets sent down to the AHL to make room for the incoming Roslovic, who was announced that game was announced signing with the Oilers. He will play his first game against New York tomorrow, Tuesday, the 14th. But yeah, I was so impressed with Philip because he was our best center that game. Like, he didn't play on the power play. He didn't get all the chances that McDavid and Draisaitl get. And I'm not bashing McDavid and Draisaitl or Frederick. They were solid in what they did. But it was Philip, Kapanen, and Podkolzin that really, really stood out this game. Like, majorly. And yeah, the Oilers won, and they deserved to win because, what was it? It was, I think it was 37-15 shots on net at the end of the game. Like, Vancouver did not play well. Only Kane and Demko played well for Vancouver. And if not for Demko, this would have been an 8 or 9-1 game. Like, Demko was just, he was in Stanley Cup form. But sadly for him, the rest of his team wasn't. And yeah, so that was the end of that. So, yeah, so we're 1 win and 1 tie. We got 3 points out of 4 so far, so good start to the season so far. You know, you would have liked better for the Calgary game, but we've seen it before with the Oilers, is they love to show up for one period and then just sort of coast in second and third, or show up, they coast in the first and the second, then they show up in the third. They love playing one 20-minute period, and then they coast in the other 2, and that's what ultimately killed us against Calgary. If they had shown up for 3 periods, we would have won that game. I have no doubt in my mind, but they didn't. And again, that's not on Stuart Skinner. He got us to overtime, and he took us 8 rounds into the shootout. You know, and unfortunately, there was 3 really terrible goals on him that weren't his fault, you know, but they were just bad luck, and yeah, unfortunately that happened. I actually saw one of the haters whining, "Oh, well, Skinner didn't stop the puck all the time. Some of the pucks hit the posts." So now we're blaming goalies for pucks hitting the posts? Seriously? Like, come on. Can we please start using some common frickin' sense out there? Please? So that was the 2 games we've had. All right, before I get to anything else, it's that time of night for Let's Make Fun of the Toronto Maple Leafs. So what do I got? Oh, well, this one is very topical today. Blue Jays are into the second round of their playoffs. They lost to the Seattle Mariners in game 1, and game 2 is going on right now. I don't know what the score is. So I saw this joke today. It's a Blue Jay talking to Matthews. Any tips for us to finish out the series? And Matthews replying, "You're joking, right?" Like, come on. That is funny, and it's also true. All right, for the second one today, we have Mitch Marner. Last year, he was Toronto's whipping boy. Toronto blamed him for everything. So Mitch Marner in a Vegas uniform, watching the Leafs blow a third period lead, but they can't blame you anymore. How true is that? And for the final one today, we have the official snack of the Toronto Maple Leafs, Doritos, extra salty, nacho year. This one is actually an older pitcher. I just noticed the names on the uniforms. You got Hyman, Matthews, Marner, and Nylander. Well, Hyman's on the Oilers and Marner's on Vegas. So this is just carried over from previous years. I mean, it's still very much applicable. So, yeah. So speaking of Jack Roslovic, so he signed a 1-year, $1.5 million contract to come play with the Oilers. And Elliot Friedman is letting us know that Jack Roslovic turned down a 2-year offer elsewhere to join the Edmonton Oilers. And that's interesting because his agent turned down a $4 million contract offer from the Oilers in the offseason. So don't quote me. Hold on one second. I got to look this up just so I don't make a mistake here. Okay, so there it is. Yeah, he was offered $4 million by the Oilers. I believe it was a 2-year contract at $4 million a season. And his agent declined the offer. He didn't. So Roslovic fired that agent. So reports indicate that he rejected the offer early in the offseason and subsequently switched to Justin Durgerman as his new agent. So he fired his old agent for flat out rejecting the offer. I would be very interested to find out what that agent was thinking. From the sounds of things, he didn't even take it to Roslovic, who wanted that offer. The Oilers were the team he wanted to play for, and his agent just declined it. And then he didn't get a contract from anyone, and he didn't even get into a training camp. So now he's on a $1.5 million contract for 1 year with the Oilers as a show-me contract. So yeah, if I was him, I'd be super pissed at that agent as well. But yeah, you got to wonder about some of these agents. You really do. And the final one for today is Oilers Hockey Club claims Leon Draisaitl is a marked man as star forward gets tossed multiple times from face-off circle. Edmonton Oilers head coach Chris Knobloch voiced frustrations after Leon Draisaitl was repeatedly ejected from face-off circles during recent games, calling his star forward a marked man. Knobloch suggested officials are being overly strict with Draisaitl, one of the NHL's best at winning draws, which has disrupted the team's rhythm. It feels like he's being targeted, the coach said in postgame, emphasizing that Draisaitl's technique hasn't changed. The German forward, known for his precision and strength in the dot, has been tossed multiple times in key moments, frustrating both him and his teammates. Analysts noted that officials appear to be closely monitoring Draisaitl's timing and hand placement, possibly reacting to his league-leading success rate. The Oilers believe the inconsistency in enforcement is affecting their possession game and are hoping for more balanced officiating moving forward. And that's fair. Like, I've noticed that too. It's like Leon gets kicked out of more dots than any center I've seen in my life. And I'm an ex-referee, just so you know. I'm trained to do face-offs, not at the NHL level, though I was invited to NHL not camps, but schools, summer schools. Like, you would have hockey schools. I got invited 2 years in a row to Calgary, Alberta, to an NHL officiating summer school. I couldn't make it, and that's a different story that I'm not going to go into. But, I was like 15 at the time, so you can kind of figure out why I wasn't being allowed to go there. But I've been trained in face-offs and I watch these, and sometimes he cheats and there's no problem kicking him out for that. But a lot of times it's like I'm watching this going, the hell is going on here? I don't see it. So I got to agree with Knobloch. It sounds to me like they're targeting him on his success. And we saw this with the power play last year. They wouldn't give us power plays even though when they were deserved, because the Oilers had a killer power play the season before. And the league's got to stop doing that. Call the game. Don't manage the game. Call the game. If Leon breaks the rules, kick him out. But if he's just good at winning and I think a part of the winning is his big stick, because he's got that big blade on his stick. But it's within the rules. Like, they've measured it and everything. It's a legal stick. So you can't punish him for it. And the league needs to step in and tell these officials to stop doing this crap. Stop managing games. Just start calling games. So that's my Let's Talk Oilers video for this week. We got a game tomorrow, Tuesday the 14th, against the Rangers. That will be the first game for Jack Roslovic. Knobloch did come out and say, people, temper your expectations. He's had no training camp. He's only had 2 practices with the Oilers. He's going to be rusty, and it's probably not going to be clicking instantly. He's got to figure out the rhythm and get in stride and learn the plays and blah, blah, blah. And the only way to do that is repetition on the ice. So you got to temper your expectations for him. He's probably not going to come out gangbusters. I think he'll be on the second line with Nuge and Majapani. That would be my guess. And I haven't heard yet who they're sending down to fit him into the roster. They're going to have to send somebody down to make cap room. I really hope it's not Lazar, because again, we need a 4th line that's a shutdown line. We don't have it. And we could have used it against Calgary big time, but we don't have it. We have 4 scoring lines. Before I go, I do want to make one mention though. I've always preached offense, balance, shutdown. Well, I think we found our balanced 3rd line, and that's Noah Phillips with Kapanen and Podkolzin. They have been excellent together. Absolutely excellent together. And they are good offensively, they are good defensively, and they have a little bit of, like with Podkolzin and Philip specifically, they have a little bit of grit and bite to them. So I think we have our 3rd line, and I hope they don't mess with it. Let these guys have 20, 30 games together to build their chemistry, because right now I'm amazed with them. I think they're doing fantastic. The other thing I forgot to note, is the 2 rookies that did not impress me in game 2, even though Vancouver wasn't playing well, is Savoy and Howard. They were not good. They were pretty much invisible. Savoy had one shift on early on in the first period where they got some momentum and he made some nice plays and passes, and then he was invisible the rest of the game. Howard was invisible the rest of the game. The only thing I noticed from those 2 is they fall down a lot. I don't know if it's nerves. It might be nerves, but they're having trouble staying on their skates. And we've seen this from other players in the past too. Like Yamamoto was always falling down, and there were the other ones. I'm forgetting who it is now. The names are escaping me, but we've seen this where they just, I don't know if it's nerves, if it's anxiety, if they're not ready for the NHL, but they're not standing on their skates strong. They're easily knocked over. They're tripping on the blue line or the red line. It's not a good look. So hopefully the coaches can figure out what's going on with those 2. And if it's me, if it's cap room, I'm sending, what's his name on the number 7 defenseman? Stetcher. I'm sending Stetcher down because we got Wallman on injury reserve. So when he comes back, we're going to have to send somebody down anyway. So that's who I would be trying to send down. If not Stetcher, I would be looking at Howard or Savoy or both of them. I don't know what their if their salary is one of their salaries is enough to make the room for Roslovic. But that's who I'd send down because they don't need to clear waivers, first off. So that's a bonus. And I don't think they've earned a spot on the team, to be quite frank. Like, they were decent in the preseason, and we've seen this before over the years where a player has a strong preseason, but as soon as the difficulty of the regular season, like you're at the preseason here, and then the regular season starts and you get here, and then when the playoffs start, it goes to here. Well, they seem to be struggling here. They were good here, but they're struggling here. And to me, maybe that's a sign they need to go to the AHL again and work some more on getting stronger on their feet and just getting stronger in their game. It's only 2 games, but it's looking more and more like they're not ready to me. So that's my take on it. So anyway, that's my video for today. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like, a subscribe, and a share. I'm trying to grow my channel, and a like, a subscribe, and a share does me wonders, and I do appreciate it. Takes 1 second to subscribe, costs you absolutely nothing, helps me immensely. Just hit the subscribe button on the bottom of the screen. Always feel free to leave a comment. I encourage everybody to leave a comment. Please comment. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Do you think I'm out to lunch? Whatever. As long as you're not being a jackass, please come in and comment. I won't hold it against you if you're wrong. But yeah, and not only does the comments get us interacting, it really does help me with the YouTube algorithm and getting more eyes on my videos. And as always, pew, 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 and shit. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye.